The council hall of the Xyranth Empire was like nothing a human had ever seen. Towering walls made of crystal-like metal stretched high above, reflecting pale blue light that seemed to flow from the very structure itself. Strange devices floated, in the air, humming softly, their purpose unknown to anyone outside the alien world. Hundreds of delegates from countless species crowded the hall, each standing tall in their unique forms, slender beings with translucent skin, armored insect-like creatures, and towering shapes with multiple arms and eyes. At the center of it, all the alien queen presided, seated on a throne that seemed to float, radiating authority that made the room vibrate with tension. Lieutenant Alex Mercer, the only human among them, felt small in the immense space. He had trained for this mission for years, yet the reality of standing in front of the most powerful beings in this sector of the galaxy still made his pulse quicken. He straightened his uniform and tried to remind himself. Humans were different. Yes, but not weak. Courage, logic, and adaptability were strengths the aliens often underestimated. Today, he would need all of them. A sudden, sharp sound broke the murmur of the delegates. A loud mechanical whine rose from the center of the hall, followed by sparks of blue energy dancing across a console that controlled the hall's environmental systems. The room shuddered as the lights flickered, and a strange wave of pressure made even the floating queen shift slightly on her throne. The alien queen's voice then cut through the noise, deep and commanding, echoing off the walls like thunder. Who fixed this? The question rolled through the hall, demanding attention. Every alien present stiffened. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. No one moved. No one spoke. In their culture, admitting to unauthorized action, especially on equipment that belonged to the Empire, was dangerous. Some species might even consider it treason. Alex, however, noticed something strange about the silence. It wasn't just fear. It was hesitation, disbelief. The machine had been malfunctioning for weeks, and no one had dared touch it. Yet here, it was functioning perfectly. The Queen's voice had revealed a truth that others were unwilling to admit. Alex's mind raced. He had been the one to fix the console. While the aliens relied on complicated algorithms and long chains of command to diagnose problems, he had done what humans often did. He had observed, tried, failed, and tried again until it worked. He knew the consequences of speaking up, but he also knew that honesty and courage were human traits he had to uphold. With a deep breath, he stepped forward. "I did," he said calmly. The room froze. Eyes of all shapes and sizes turned toward him. Whispers began, some filled with shock, others with disbelief. A few delegates even leaned forward to get a better look at this bold human. The Queen's gaze focused on him, her many eyes narrowing slightly. Her voice, now softer but still powerful, rumbled through the hall. "A human dares to speak in the Hall of Judgment. Explain yourself." Alex swallowed and nodded. "Your Majesty, the console was malfunctioning. I examined it and repaired the circuits. The system is now stable and fully functional." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Some aliens whispered that humans were reckless, while others seemed almost impressed. One of the insectoid delegates clicked its mandibles in surprise, while a towering, four-armed creature tilted its head as if reconsidering what it thought. It knew about humans. The Queen's expression remained unreadable. She rose slightly from her throne, and the floating platform responded, adjusting to her height. The pressure in the room increased, and Alex could feel the Queen's scrutiny like a weight pressing down on him. "Explain your method," the Queen commanded. Alex nodded again. "I first traced the circuits physically, rather than relying on the algorithms your engineers use. I observed which components were damaged and replaced them. I tested each connection step by step, adjusting as needed. The system is now fully operational, and I confirmed it can handle the expected load without error." The Queen tilted her head, a gesture that made Alex nervous. She had lived for centuries, and her intelligence and judgment far surpassed anything he had encountered. Yet she did not immediately punish him. Instead, she studied him carefully, as if weighing the human's worth. For the first time, Alex noticed subtle reactions among the other delegates. Many of them had assumed the human would either fail or be crushed for daring to act, but he had succeeded, and that forced them to rethink their assumptions. A few aliens even exchanged uneasy glances. The Queen's voice finally spoke again, carrying both authority and curiosity. You repaired it yourself? Without permission? Without consultation? Yes, Your Majesty, Alex said firmly. The problem required immediate action. Waiting for permission would have risked failure and possible damage to the council systems. The Queen's eyes flicked to the damaged console, now glowing steadily with energy. The hum was soft and stable, a sign of perfect function. She then turned her gaze back to Alex. Most in this hall would not dare, she said. Her voice was no longer just a command, it carried a hint of admiration. They rely on protocol, rules, and tradition. You relied on instinct, on reasoning we do not always see. Alex felt a flicker of pride but remained careful. It is what humans do, Your Majesty. We assess, adapt, and act when necessary. There was a long pause. Some delegates muttered among themselves, but the Queen silenced them with a simple gesture. She seemed intrigued, as if she had discovered a new species within the species. Interesting, she finally said. Perhaps humans are capable of more than we anticipated. Alex's pulse quickened. This was more than recognition. It was an opportunity. If the Queen could see the value of humans, it might change humanity's place in the Interstellar Council. But he also knew that admiration from a being like her was a double-edged sword. It could turn to suspicion or challenge at any moment. The room's atmosphere shifted subtly. The tension was still present, but now mixed with curiosity. Delegates who had whispered nervously now watched Alex with a mix of respect and skepticism. The insectoid delegate clicked again, this time not in surprise but almost in approval. Alex looked around, taking in the diversity of life. Here were beings with intellects that spanned centuries, cultures that defied human comprehension, and technology that humans could barely imagine. Yet, despite all that, his actions had spoken louder than fear, protocol, or tradition. In that moment he realized humans had a unique advantage, creativity under pressure. The Queen's voice broke his thoughts. You have demonstrated capability, human, but the question remains. Can you do more? Alex straightened. I will do my best, Your Majesty. I will not fail. A ripple of whispers spread through the hall. The delegates were unsure if humans could truly handle the complexities of their empire. But Alex's courage had planted a seed of doubt, and perhaps respect. The Queen studied him for a long moment, then slowly sank back into her throne. We shall see, she said, her tone both warning and promise. Today you have acted boldly. Tomorrow, we will see if your species can stand among us. Alex nodded silently. He had faced the most intimidating beings he had ever met, and had survived, not by force, not by cunning, but by staying true to human strengths, courage, observation, and action. As the delegates began to leave the hall, whispering and murmuring, Alex remained standing, absorbing the weight of what had just happened. For the first time, he felt that humans were not merely observers in the galaxy. They could be participants, innovators, and perhaps even leaders. And somewhere deep in the throne, the alien Queen's many eyes lingered on him, already plotting how this small, brave human could change everything. The hall was no longer just a place of judgment. It had become a place where the human spirit had made its mark. After the council hall had emptied, Lieutenant Alex Mercer remained behind, his eyes scanning the massive space now quiet except for the hum of machinery. The alien Queen's gaze had lingered on him, as if weighing his worth against the centuries of alien wisdom surrounding him. Alex knew that his actions today had drawn attention, not all of it friendly. Some delegates would see him as reckless, others as a threat. But a few would see what humans truly were, adaptable, brave, and quick thinking. He walked toward the repaired console, touching its surface carefully. The blue energy ran smoothly, the hum steady and reassuring. In alien technology, appearances could be deceiving, but he had tested it thoroughly. The repairs were solid. No one had dared fix this machine for weeks. Humans could see what others missed, not because of arrogance, but because they were willing to act when action was necessary. A soft sound behind him made him turn. A small, slender alien with glass-like wings hovered in the air. It was one of the junior engineers from the council, a species that communicated in high-pitched clicks and light pulses. You fixed it?" it asked, its voice trembling. Alex nodded. "Yes. It was not functioning properly. I had to trace the circuits manually and test each connection." The alien's wings fluttered nervously. But our algorithms are perfect. No one touches the main systems without permission. You risked everything." Alex smiled faintly. "Sometimes algorithms are not enough. You need observation, intuition, and courage to act when others hesitate." The alien tilted its head. Its species did not understand human thinking, but it could sense the honesty in Alex's words. The insect-like delegates and others would call it reckless. Alex called it human. Meanwhile, far above in her observation chamber, the alien queen watched the human from her elevated throne. She had ruled for centuries, and she had seen many beings attempt to impress her with skill or intellect, but Alex was different. He had acted independently without fear and without waiting for orders. That was a quality rarely seen outside her own species. Her mind traced the implications carefully. If humans were capable of such initiative, what else could they do? Could they handle the more complex systems of the Empire? Could they manage situations that required not just intelligence but judgment under pressure? The answers were unknown, but intriguing. Back in the hall, Alex had begun documenting the repairs he had made. He was meticulous, knowing that other engineers might need to understand his process. In human culture, documentation was as important as action. It allowed knowledge to be shared, mistakes to be corrected, and improvements to be made. But in the Alien Council, such a methodical approach was rare. Most species relied on rigid protocols, passed down through strict hierarchies, and changes were often resisted. One of the senior delegates, a four-armed being covered in iridescent scales, approached Alex cautiously. "Human, you touched the main systems without authorization?" it asked, its tone a mixture of accusation and curiosity. "Yes," Alex said calmly. "The system was failing. Immediate action was necessary to prevent further problems." HFY. Alien studied him for a long moment, then, almost reluctantly, it nodded. "It is functional now. Perhaps your method has merit." Alex smiled faintly, though he knew this was cautious praise. Among aliens, praise was rarely given freely, and admiration could be followed by scrutiny. He had to prove more than that he could fix machines. He had to show that humans had a way of thinking others could not match. He turned to another console nearby, one that had remained untouched due to its complexity. He traced the wiring with careful hands, observing patterns, comparing them with the schematics the aliens had provided. Where they relied on calculation alone, Alex relied on a combination of calculation and instinct. He noticed a small misalignment in one of the energy conduits, something no algorithm had accounted for. With a gentle adjustment, the reading stabilized. A small group of alien engineers had gathered, watching silently. Some looked horrified that a human had dared touch equipment they considered sacred. Others watched with quiet fascination. One of the elder insectoid delegates whispered to its neighbor, "Perhaps humans are more capable than we assumed." Alex knew that was exactly the point. Humans often thrived in situations where rules and tradition held others back. They could improvise, adapt, and act under pressure. It was not recklessness, it was ingenuity. Suddenly, a warning signal flashed across the main console. Energy fluctuations were detected in a sector of the hall that controlled the life support systems. A few alien engineers panicked, unsure how to handle it. Alex stepped forward immediately. "Let me see it," he said. His voice carried authority, even though he had no official rank in their hierarchy. The engineers hesitated, But the Queen's subtle gaze reminded them that humans had already earned a measure of trust. Alex examined the energy flow, tracing the issue to a misaligned conduit deep within the system. The aliens were careful, methodical. They would have needed hours or days to isolate the problem. Alex relied on observation and hands-on testing. Within minutes, he had identified the source, adjusted the conduit, and stabilized the system. The hall's hum returned to normal. The engineers looked at him with awe. Some were reluctant to admit it, but even they could not deny the humans' ability. One of the alien engineers asked cautiously, "How did you know?" Alex shrugged. "I watched, I tested, and I acted. Sometimes seeing is better than predicting, and sometimes acting is better than waiting." A ripple of whispers spread through the gathered species. It was unusual, almost unheard of, for anyone to challenge the rigid systems of the Council and succeed so thoroughly. Alex had done what no other being dared to attempt. He had demonstrated not just skill but courage and clarity of thought. Meanwhile, the alien queen watched from her chamber, her many eyes focused and calculating. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability could be powerful. If they could combine their courage with skill, they could accomplish what her species had only dreamed of. And that made them both dangerous and valuable. The Queen's attention was not limited to technical skill alone. She saw how Alex handled the alien engineers, with patience, respect, and clarity. Unlike many other beings who sought to impress with arrogance or authority, Alex had shown humility and practicality. That combination was rare and dangerous. To those who relied solely on tradition. Later, when the Council reconvened, Alex was asked to explain his methods in detail. He spoke clearly and simply, using terms the aliens could understand. He emphasized observation, step-by-step testing, and reasoning under pressure, skills humans often took for granted. Some delegates were skeptical, of course. They whispered that humans were primitive, that their methods were unsophisticated. But the evidence was undeniable. The systems were functioning perfectly, and no mistakes had been made. By the end of the day, a shift had begun. Delegates who had once doubted humans now began to consider their value. The Queen herself remained cautious, but curiosity had been sparked. A species that could act boldly, think independently, and succeed where centuries of alien protocol had failed was worth watching. Alex, exhausted but alert, realized that his journey was only beginning. Fixing the console had been just the first step. If humans were to earn a place among the Council, they would need to continue demonstrating not just courage, but ingenuity, ethics, and adaptability. And Alex was ready. He glanced once more at the repaired console, now glowing steadily, humming smoothly. A small smile crossed his face. The aliens may have underestimated humans, but that mistake would not last long. In a universe governed by rules, protocols, and centuries of tradition, one human had proven that action, observation, and courage could make a difference. And that difference would echo far beyond the walls of the Council Hall. For the first time, Alex felt it clearly. Humans had a place in this galaxy, not as spectators, not as servants, but as innovators, problem solvers, and daring participants in the great interstellar experiment. The day after Alex had repaired the Council Hall's main systems, a message arrived from the alien queen herself. It was brief, yet commanding. Human, you will report to the Chamber of Trials. There, your ability will be tested beyond mere repair. Your courage and intellect will be evaluated. Fail, and you may jeopardize your species' standing. Succeed, and you will have earned the Council's respect. Alex read the message silently, and then looked at the junior engineers who had followed him earlier. Their faces were a mixture of worry and curiosity. Even they understood that the Chamber of Trials was not just a test. It was a challenge few could survive. He took a deep breath and stepped onto the transport platform that would take him to the chamber. The air shimmered around him, and the EI platform lifted smoothly, carrying him through a twisting corridor of light and metal. As the walls passed by, he could see hints of alien machinery, tools, and devices of incredible complexity. Some seemed to defy gravity entirely. Humans had never seen anything like this, yet Alex reminded himself of one simple truth. Observation, reasoning, and courage could overcome almost anything. When he arrived, the chamber was unlike the council hall. It was vast, circular, and dimly lit, with machines of strange design lining the walls. At the center stood an enormous device, an ancient system of wires, conduits, and glowing panels. Energy pulsed through it like a heartbeat. This, Alex realized, was the Queen's true test. A system so complex that no alien engineer had been able to fully understand it in centuries. The chamber doors sealed behind him, and a holographic projection of the Queen appeared, her many eyes fixed on him. "Human," she said. "This system has been inoperative for longer than recorded memory. None of the Council's finest can restore it. You may attempt it, if you dare. Your species' fate rests on your ability to succeed." Alex felt the weight of her words. Failure was not an option. But as he stepped closer to the machine, he reminded himself, humans excel where others hesitate. Where others follow protocol, humans think creatively. And where others fear, humans act. He began by observing the system, noting the flow of energy and the connection between components. The aliens had designed it with precision, but centuries of neglect had allowed small flaws to multiply into chaos. Panels flickered, conduits hummed unevenly, and the energy pulsed irregularly. Alien engineers would have paused here, consulted layers of protocol, or even waited for permission from the Queen herself. Alex did none of those things. He knelt beside the nearest panel and touched it, feeling the subtle vibrations, tracing the connections with his hands. It was instinct, yes, but backed by years of training in engineering and problem-solving. Minutes passed. The energy readings fluctuated, sparking small arcs that hissed and faded. Alex made small adjustments, testing each change carefully. He noticed that one of the conduits was misaligned, a tiny shift that no machine could detect. With a careful nudge, he corrected it. The panel's glow steadied slightly. A whisper of surprise echoed in the chamber, not from the human, but from the holographic projection of the Queen. Her eyes widened, not in anger but in curiosity. Few beings dared act independently on this system, and even fewer succeeded so far. Alex moved methodically, checking each segment, observing, testing, and adjusting. It was not brute force, it was logic, combined with observation and courage. Each time he fixed a minor issue, the system responded with a small surge of energy, a heartbeat growing steadier. Halfway through, a sudden warning flashed across the central console. Energy spikes threatened to overload part of the system. Alien. Engineers would panic, retreating to safety. Alex did not. He placed his hands on the conduits, tracing the energy manually, feeling its flow. With a calm, precise adjustment, he redirected the energy safely, preventing a catastrophic failure. The chamber fell silent. Even the Queen's projection seemed impressed. But the test was far from over. The final segment of the machine was the oldest and most unpredictable. Ancient alien technology was designed to respond to intention as much as action, an idea humans struggled to grasp. It required more than skill. It required judgment, intuition, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Alex approached it carefully, noting the strange symbols and energy flows. He realized that the system would not respond to force or simple repair. He needed to understand its rhythm, its language, as if it were alive. He studied the conduits, observing the pulses, listening to the hums. Slowly, patterns emerged. The machine was not broken. It was waiting for someone to think beyond the obvious, to act with insight rather than instruction. He took a deep breath and acted. With a combination of careful adjustments and intuitive connections, he aligned the final conduits, guided energy through the correct pathways, and stabilized the system. Lights across the chamber shifted from unstable flickers to steady glows, and a low, harmonious hum filled the air. The machine had awakened, functioning perfectly for the first time in centuries. Alex stepped back, his hands slightly trembling from exertion, but his mind was clear. He had done it. He had succeeded where even the most brilliant alien engineers had failed. The Queen's projection spoke, her voice now a mixture of approval and awe. Human, you have demonstrated not only skill but courage and reasoning beyond expectation. Few could attempt what you have, and fewer still would succeed. A wave of whispers traveled across the chamber as the holographic projection of the Queen extended to show the assembled council. Delegates from many species gasped, murmured, and studied Alex with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. One of the senior alien engineers, known for their arrogance and skepticism, finally spoke. This human, he has done what centuries of knowledge could not. How? Alex smiled faintly. We observe, we test, and we act. Sometimes thinking differently solves what tradition cannot. Sometimes courage is the tool that intelligence alone cannot provide. The Queen studied him, her multiple eyes gleaming with interest. Your species may be small, human, but you carry qualities rare among us. Creativity, courage, and decisive action. These are strengths that may shape the future of the Council. Alex felt a surge of pride, but he remained humble. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only do what I can. The council chamber erupted in conversation. Some delegates were reluctant to acknowledge the human's achievement, still clinging to protocol and hierarchy. Others, however, began to reconsider their assumptions. Perhaps humans were not primitive or unpredictable in a negative sense. They were adaptable, capable of quick reasoning, and willing to act when others feared to do so. Even in the quiet moments, Alex realized the weight of his actions. This was more than a test of skill. It was a test of trust. He had earned the council's attention and possibly the Queen's respect. Humans were now no longer just observers. They were participants. The Queen's voice finally broke the murmurs. Human, you have passed the test of courage. But understand this is only the beginning. The galaxy is vast, and the challenges ahead will demand more than repair skills. Will you rise to them? Alex met her gaze steadily. I will, Your Majesty. Humans will not fail when action is needed. A silence followed, not of fear, but of recognition. Even the skeptical delegates had to admit that courage combined with intellect could be a powerful force. The Queen, observing carefully, nodded slightly. She had discovered a species capable of thinking differently, acting boldly, and inspiring change. And that was a discovery with consequences far beyond this chamber. As Alex left the chamber of trials, escorted back to his quarters, he reflected on what had happened. This test had been more than a challenge. It had been a demonstration of human potential. The aliens would remember this day, and they would remember the human who dared to act where others hesitated. He knew the future would bring more challenges. The Queen's attention, while promising, could also bring scrutiny. Not all species in the council would welcome humans' influence. But for the first time, Alex felt a quiet confidence. Humans had a place among the stars, and their courage, ingenuity, and willingness to act could shape the galaxy in ways others could not imagine. The council chambers were quieter than usual after Alex's astounding success in the Chamber of Trials. Delegates who had once dismissed humans now whispered cautiously, some in awe, others in suspicion. The ripple of his achievement was spreading, faster than any of them expected. A single human had challenged centuries of alien knowledge and prevailed. Alex sat in a small room adjacent to the council hall, documenting the Chamber of Trials step by step. He wrote carefully, knowing that this record could become essential. Not just for humans, but for any species that might attempt to understand the alien technology in the future. His fingers traced diagrams, notes, and energy readings. For humans, sharing knowledge was as important as having it. For many alien species, secrecy and hierarchy were far more valued. A soft chime interrupted his work. A delegation of smaller species had requested an audience with him. They were creatures resembling floating jellyfish pulsating with light, their voices musical but uncertain. One of them spoke first, its tone trembling slightly. Human, your actions. They have changed many opinions. Some of us. We want to learn from you. Alex nodded calmly. I will help. Observation, reasoning, and action. These are the ways humans work. You can adapt them to your systems if you wish. The delegation shimmered with gratitude, and Alex could feel that for the first time, humans were seen as more than outsiders. But not all reactions were positive. From the far side of the council hall, murmurs began to rise. Certain factions were uneasy. A few senior delegates, powerful and influential, viewed Alex's success as a threat. If a human could succeed where their species had failed, what did it say about their centuries of control? Some began plotting quietly, whispering to one another in languages Alex could not understand. One of these delegates, a tall, armored being with jagged exoskeletons, muttered to a companion, "This human, he should not have succeeded. He disrupts the order. If the Queen values him, we must act." Their plan was subtle. They would spread doubt about Alex's intentions, question his loyalty, and frame his successes as flukes or manipulations. But they underestimated one critical factor. Humans were not just clever. They were ethical. Alex would not cheat, lie, or manipulate for gain. He relied on honesty and transparency, which often disarmed his detractors. The alien queen, observing all this from her elevated chamber, noted the growing tension. Humans were now a topic of debate across the council, their influence expanding far faster than she had anticipated. Some species saw potential allies, others saw competition. The queen smiled faintly. Chaos could be useful if it forced others to recognize human value. The next day, the council formally convened. Alex was invited to present his methods to a larger audience, including senior delegates who had previously been skeptical. He stood before them, calm and composed, ready to explain. Esteemed delegates, he began. The Chamber of Trials was a challenge, but its success relied on observation, careful testing, and decisive action. These are principles humans use in problem solving. By studying patterns, identifying flaws, and acting quickly when necessary, we can stabilize systems that others might fear to touch. A ripple of whispers traveled across the room. Some delegates nodded in agreement, acknowledging the value of his methods. Others exchanged skeptical looks. A senior insectoid delegate raised a claw, addressing the council. And what guarantee do we have that this human, or his species, will not act recklessly in the future? That these methods, which defy our traditions, will not cause harm? Alex met the gaze steadily. The same guarantee any species has. When it acts responsibly, careful observation, testing, and ethical decision-making. Humans do not act blindly. We act with reasoning and with the knowledge of consequences. For a moment, the hall was silent. The queen's gaze swept across the room. She had been listening closely. Alex's combination of courage, skill, and honesty was making an impression even on the most skeptical delegates. Yet the political ripples were not limited to admiration. Some alien factions were plotting quietly. They feared that giving humans authority would undermine their centuries of influence. One group even suggested technical sabotage, hoping to discredit Alex and his species. But Alex was prepared. The transparency and meticulous documentation he had maintained made sabotage difficult. Any attempt to manipulate his work would be quickly discovered. Later, as Alex walked through the council corridors, he noticed subtle signs of these plots. Whispers that stopped when he approached, glances that darted away. He understood the stakes. Humans were no longer just participants, they were players in a complex political game. And unlike many alien species, humans were adaptable. Alex could navigate these challenges by staying honest, calm, and focused on problem solving rather than conflict. In the weeks that followed, Alex continued to assist with various council systems, each challenge highlighting human ingenuity. He helped repair aging starship engines, optimized energy conduits, and even improved communication networks between alien sectors. Every success increased both admiration and suspicion. One day, the queen summoned him. Her voice carried a mixture of curiosity and authority. Human, your methods have proven effective, but the council is divided. Some see your species as a threat to tradition, others see it as a potential advantage. How do you suggest we proceed? Alex considered carefully. Your Majesty, humans succeed by observing, learning, and cooperating. We do not seek to replace anyone. We only act to solve problems when needed. If the Council allows us to contribute honestly, the results will benefit everyone. The Queen's eyes glimmered. You speak with wisdom beyond your years. I will note this. But be aware, not all species will accept your method so willingly. Politics can be more dangerous than any machine. Alex nodded. He understood. In human history, courage and ingenuity had often been challenged by politics and fear. He would need to balance skill with diplomacy. A few days later, tensions in the council became visible. Certain alien factions openly criticized humans, claiming they were unpredictable and could not be trusted. Others defended Alex, pointing to his proven results and honesty. The chamber became a place of debate, discussion, and subtle maneuvering. Throughout it all, Alex remained calm. He continued to demonstrate his abilities, always transparent and ethical. Slowly, some skeptics began to change their minds. Results, after all, were difficult to dispute. By the end of the month, the political landscape had shifted. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were acknowledged contributors to the Council's projects. Their methods were studied, their successes noted. The Queen observed this carefully, noting which species adapted to human approaches and which resisted. Alex, exhausted but steady, realized the impact of his actions. Courage and ingenuity alone were not enough. Humans also needed patience, diplomacy, and integrity. By combining these qualities, they could navigate not just machines, but politics and power. As he left the council chambers one evening, Alex reflected on the journey so far. From repairing a single console to mastering the chamber of trials and navigating political intrigue, humans had proven their value. But the galaxy was vast, and challenges were far from over. The next steps would require even greater courage, intelligence, and cooperation. And somewhere above, the alien queen watched, her eyes sharp and calculating. Humans had impressed her, unsettled her, and intrigued her all at once. She wondered how far they could go, and whether their influence might one day change the council itself. For now, the political ripples of Alex's actions were spreading, slowly transforming perception and opportunity. Humans were no longer the quiet outsiders. They were players in the interstellar arena, capable of shaping events far beyond what anyone had anticipated. The council hall buzzed with an energy Alex had never felt before. Weeks of observation, testing, and careful diplomacy had finally begun to pay off. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were contributors, innovators, and in some cases, role models for methods the alien species had ignored for centuries. Alex stood at the center of the hall, facing delegates from dozens of worlds. The alien queen's throne floated above him, her eyes fixed on the human who had defied expectations. At every turn, her voice, calm but commanding, echoed across the chamber. Today we recognize the contributions of the human species. Their ingenuity, courage, and ethical judgment have proven valuable beyond measure. Let it be known that humans are not merely participants, they are partners in the Council's mission. A wave of murmurs swept through the hall. Some delegates clapped, or their alien equivalents of applause. Others remained skeptical, but even they could not ignore the evidence. Humans had repeatedly demonstrated skill, judgment, and courage where others had faltered. Alex felt a mixture of pride and humility. This recognition was not just for him, it was for all humans, a testament to the species' potential. He stepped forward to address the council. Esteemed delegates, he began, his voice steady. Humans have always faced challenges, and we have survived by observing, learning, and acting. We do not claim to know everything, nor do we seek to replace anyone. But when we see a problem, we act, not recklessly, but with reasoning, ethics, and courage. Our goal is not to dominate, but to contribute, to help, and to learn alongside all of you. The room was silent, absorbing his words. The Queen tilted her head slightly, her many eyes reflecting approval. She had observed humans for weeks now, and she had seen the rare combination of courage, skill, and ethical reasoning they possessed. One of the skeptical delegates finally spoke. A being with shimmering wings and a serpentine body said, "Perhaps humans are more than we believed. Perhaps we have underestimated them." Alex nodded. Underestimation is natural when a species thinks differently, but when given the chance, humans rise to challenges not with arrogance but with determination and honesty. The Queen's gaze softened slightly. "You speak wisely, human. Your species may be small in number, but your impact can be great. I hope you will continue to show us the value of courage and creativity." A round of murmurs, clicks, and gestures moved through the chamber as delegates began to accept the new reality. Humans were no longer an anomaly. They were a recognized, respected species in the Council. But recognition came with responsibility. Alex understood that clearly. Other species would continue to watch humans, some with admiration, others with suspicion. It would be necessary to act wisely, to maintain trust, and to show that humans' methods could benefit everyone. Over the next several months, humans began to take on more responsibilities in the Council's operations. Alex assisted in stabilizing interstellar energy grids, optimizing starship engines, and improving communication networks. His methods, simple, practical, and often intuitive, showed results where traditional alien systems had stalled for decades. Some aliens resisted the human approach, clinging to old methods and rituals. But as successes mounted, even the most skeptical delegates began to reconsider. Observation, careful testing, and decisive action, these human traits could not be ignored. The political landscape of the Council shifted subtly. Factions that had sought to discredit humans found their influence waning, while those who embraced human methods gained favor. The Queen observed these developments with interest, recognizing that humans had not only contributed technologically, but had also begun to reshape the Council's dynamics. One evening, after a particularly long session, the Queen summoned Alex to her private chamber. The room was vast and filled with soft, glowing lights. The Queen's presence was both commanding and curious, as always. "Human," she began, "you have done more than repair machines. You have altered perceptions, challenged assumptions, and demonstrated courage where few could. I wish to ask you a question. How do humans remain so fearless in the face of uncertainty?" Alex considered her question carefully. "Your Majesty, humans do not always feel fearless. We feel doubt, fear, and hesitation. But we have learned that action is often more powerful than hesitation. By observing, reasoning, and acting, we turn fear into opportunity. That is how we survive, and how we thrive." The Queen remained silent for a moment, then nodded. "Your explanation is satisfactory. I see why your species may have a place among us. Do not lose this spirit, human, for it may shape the future of the Council itself." Alex bowed respectfully. "I will not, Your Majesty. Humans will continue to act with courage, skill, and honesty." As he left the chamber, Alex felt a quiet determination. Recognition was important, but maintaining it required continuous effort. Humans had proven themselves, but the galaxy was vast and full of unknown challenges. The next mission, the next crisis, would require every ounce of observation, ingenuity, and courage they possessed. Back in the Council Hall, Alex observed other species beginning to adapt human methods in their own ways. Engineers who had once relied solely on rigid algorithms now incorporated hands-on observation. Delegates who feared independent action now acknowledged the value of decisive judgment. Slowly, the Council itself was learning to change. One day, a new project arrived. A failing star system communications hub on the edge of the galaxy. The hub had been dormant for decades and no alien engineer had managed to restore it. Alex was called upon to lead the effort, this time not alone, but with a team of human and alien engineers working together. He approached the challenge as always. Careful observation first, analysis second, action third. The system was complex, full of energy conduits, sensors, and ancient alien technology. Alex's hands traced the circuits, his mind noting patterns that others had missed. He guided his team patiently, demonstrating human methods step by step. Within hours, the hub was restored. Communication signals pulsed steadily, transmitting across light years. The aliens on his team watched in amazement as systems they had thought irreparable came to life. A delegate from a distant world said quietly, "This human, he shows us a way we never imagined." Alex smiled. "We all learn when we observe and act together. This is the way forward, not as one species dominating another, but as many species solving problems together." Word of the restored hub spread quickly. Recognition of humans' abilities grew, and with it, the sense that humanity had earned a permanent place in the council. They were no longer just observers or assistants. They were innovators, leaders, and partners. The alien queen, observing these developments, noted with satisfaction that humans were not only capable, but also reliable. Their courage, creativity, and ethics had transformed the council in ways she had never expected. Humans had done more than fix machines. They had changed perceptions, influenced policy, and inspired cooperation across species. Months later, the council convened once more. The Queen's voice rang through the hall. "Today, we officially acknowledge humans as full participants in the Interstellar Council. Their contributions, courage, and ingenuity have proven invaluable. May their presence continue to inspire all species to achieve greatness together." Delegates erupted in gestures of approval. Some still hesitated, but the tide had shifted irreversibly. Humans had earned a place among the stars. Alex stood quietly, observing the scene. He thought of the journey that had begun with a single repair in the council hall. The courage to speak up when no one else would, and the determination to act when others hesitated. Humans had proven that bravery, ingenuity, and ethical reasoning were not just survival traits. They were qualities that could change the galaxy. As he left the hall, the Queen's voice followed him in a softer tone, almost a whisper. "Human, continue as you have begun. Your species may one day be the key to shaping the future of this council, and perhaps the galaxy itself." Alex smiled, feeling the weight and promise of her words. The future was vast, uncertain, and full of challenges, but humans were ready. They had earned recognition, respect, and opportunity, and with courage, ingenuity, and integrity, they would continue to rise, proving that even the smallest species could leave the largest mark on the stars. For the first time, Alex truly believed. Humans were not just surviving among alien civilizations, they were thriving, shaping the future, and standing as equals in a galaxy that had once doubted them. The hall, once a place of judgment and fear, had become a place of possibility. And as Alex looked out into the vast expanse of stars beyond the council chambers, he knew humanity's journey was only beginning.